Hi guys, this is Scribbly again with another product review, and today we are going to have a look at the Pilot Custom 74. The Custom 74 is a pen that I wanted to review for a very long time because it's a very popular pen in the fountain pen community. It's one of the most popular Japanese pens, I guess, and if you hear fountain pen enthusiasts speaking about their pens, you might very well often hear people talking about the Custom 74 being one of their most favorite fountain pens. So I was really excited to have a look at that pen. I really wanted to review that pen for almost half a year now, or even longer. I got the pen in black here. It does also come in most widely available colors are orange and blue, and then with the orange and blue it's mostly the cap and the barrel that are orange or blue, and those end caps here are in the orange and blue pen mostly also smoky gray. So that one here, like, to me it's a smoky gray, but the pen is marketed as black. Could also be interpreted as anthracite. It's marketed as black, and well, just to put that pen a little bit in perspective in the whole Pilot line, I would say that you could say it's the smaller brother of the Pilot Custom 823, which is a slightly larger pen, has a plunger filling system instead of the cartridge converter filling system that the Custom 74 here has. And then the Custom 74 also has a slightly smaller nib than the 823. The Custom 74 has the same nib than the Custom Heritage 92 or 91, so it's a slightly smaller nib, but yeah, I guess it's safe to say that that's the smaller brother of the 823. Let's have a look at the packaging before we have a look at the pen itself. The packaging is fairly spectacular, as you would maybe expect for a, let me comment on that for a minute, for a maybe upper class pen. Now, pricing with those Pilot pens often is quite confusing. They're Japanese pens, so I'm a little bit hesitant on commenting about pricing, because if you order that pen on eBay from Japan, which you will find out after a little bit research, something that you can do, but you gotta be aware of custom declaration taxes that you might have to pay, import taxes, depending on where you're living on. You'll find the pen from Japan for around €80. If you're in the States, and I've just checked pricing with Goulet pens, they sell it, for example, for $160. And if you're sitting somewhere in Western Europe, you might end up paying up to €200 for the pen. So, well, I consider it an upper class pen. It's definitely not a Lamy Safari kind of inexpensive pen, but you know, as often with Japanese pens, pricing is slightly all over the place. So very nice large cardboard box. I mean, this cardboard box is almost as large as my hands, and my hands are not exactly small. So beautiful, big, nice white packaging. And then, yeah, inside you get the pen with a beautiful black Pilot cloth bag with a small zip thing here that you can, you know, a small, whatever you might want to call that thing that you can use to attach a pen. I assume that packaging is also used for the vanishing point / capless, because that's actually the shape of the vanishing point / capless. Then, as you can already see here, I got the pen in fine, put the sticker in here, and it also comes with a packet of blue-black Pilot Namiki fountain pen cartridges. As said, it's a cartridge converter filling pen, and as you already see here, it's a proprietary format, slightly larger opening hole here. So you need to either buy the Pilot original cartridges, refill those with a syringe once they're empty, or use the Con 70 converter, and I'll come back to that in a minute, that is supplied with a pen. So that's that to the packaging. Put all that back and let's jump into the pen. The first impression that I had when I looked at the pen was, wow, it's a lot larger than I expected the pen to be. Honestly, I expected that pen to be somewhere along the size of a Sailor 1911, which is probably like that. I don't have one to compare it because I sold mine recently. Or like that. I'm not exactly sure now. I'm gonna compare it to a Lamy Safari later on, but well, it is a lot larger than I expected, especially a lot longer. So it's a fairly long pen. This is by no means a small pen. Let's have a look at the pen. First of all, very classical cigar-shaped pen. I think if you are not really into fountain pens, you might have a hard time distinguishing that pen from a Sailor 1911, from a Platinum Century 3776, because they're all classical cigar-shaped pen, very classic fountain pen shape. You find it on the Montblanc 146, 149, on very many fountain pens. So you can't really go wrong with that shape, very classical. Then, as said, it's rounded, has a rounded dome. It looks a little bit spherical here, which I find very nice. As said, this here is the smoky black or black colored pen, the same spherical, difficult word, dome here at the end of the pen. You can't unscrew those or something like that. It looks like it can be unscrewed, but it can't. Overall, a very nice, subtle demonstrator design that I enjoy a lot. It is a demonstrator pen. You can see the converter in here. You can see the ink level in the pen. That is almost empty, but I'm going to refill it with Iroshizuku Tsukiyo again to show you the filling mechanism here. You can see the nib in here. See that? But you can see it, but you can't. So I mean, it's a demonstrated design, but very subtle. Let me just grab quickly the Century Platinum Century 3776 Black Diamond, which also is a demonstrator, also a very subtle demonstrator design. You know, you can see, you see this spiral in here, you see the nib in here. It's also very subtle demonstrator design. How can I show that to you properly? Difficult. So the demonstrator design of the Pilot is not as subtle. You see it a little bit more, but maybe if you have a Black Diamond or you've seen a Black Diamond before, you see the nib in here as well, but you see it better in here. So it's also a muted demonstrator design, but not as muted as with that Black Diamond here. Anyway, the cap then has a silver ring here. You see that screw of the inner cap in here. Has this classical Pilot, famous, unique Pilot clip saying Pilot here, tapering down a little bit like that, then having a ball here that makes it easy to slide into the shirt pocket. That is a very, very, very tight clip, but it's easy to use because of that ball that, as said, makes it very easy to slide into the pocket. Then you have a cap band here, says Made in Japan, a star, Custom 74, another star, Pilot, yeah, and then back again to Made in Japan. Then a barrel that slightly tapers towards that side here, another silver end band here, and then, as said, this spherical end dome, or whatever you might want to call it. That is a screw-on cap, screws off with a little bit more than a turn, which I find very pleasant. About 1.5 turns, because that makes it usable as a note taker. Pointed out in almost every review, I don't like it if I have to twist and turn a pen like 2 or 3 times for the cap to come off. That here is very convenient. Then now you here see clearly the demonstrator design of the pen. You see a gray or gray, milky gray inner cap that prevents the nib from drying out. There's a very excellent job in doing so. Never had an issue picking that pen up and not writing. I find that demonstrator, this translucent plastic, it looks very appealing. You see some, it looks very, very nice. I really love that design. You see some ink sprinkles in here, some small facets in here, which also looks nice. You see the threading here, also looks very beautiful. I mean, this is very well made. I mean, this does not look cheap or inexpensive whatsoever. Looks really, really nice, really well made pen. Yeah, well, then you have a section here and the nib. As said, the nib is that 14K gold nib. Says Pilot 14K 585 for the gold content. Then says 5 because this is Pilot's number 5 size nib. Then says focus camera F for fine, has some scroll work on here, as this is a really, really fine. It's a Japanese fine, of course, so it's going to be a lot finer than a European fine, but this is really a fine line, I'm telling you. Has some scroll work on here. Breather hole, as said, is the same nib than on the Custom Heritage 91 or 92. A fairly short section, but another silver band here. Fairly short section, but no sharp threading, so you can find your grip on that section, but it's a very, I find a very beefy, very chunky section. So it's, for me, I like pens if they're a bit on the thicker side, a little bit on the beefier side. So I find this pen very, very comfortable to hold, actually. Very pleasant to hold. And as said, you already see that it's a fairly long pen. It's a larger pen. We open up the pen. Yes, close here, make that easier. And we expose a metal section, so you can't eyedropper convert this pen. And then you see this Pilot Con 70 converter here, which actually has a huge ink capacity. It's probably almost like a Pelikan M200 piston fill or something like that. And that is a pump action. Like, so you pump up here, and that's how the pen is gonna suck up ink. And I'm going to do that right now because it's almost empty, and I wanted you to see how very convenient that works. So let's do that. Live inking up demonstration, always a bit risky. Hope I don't spill ink now. Put that pen here, dip that thing into the ink, and then pump here. I hope you can see that. A bit tricky to show so that you can see it. So I was now pumping 3 times. I hope you could see it. Sorry, I had to use my second hand. But you see, full, totally full. You get a very easy, a complete full fill of ink. There is no air remaining in here. Very easy, very, very convenient to fill. As said, it took 2 or maybe 3 pumps, or had to press 2 or 3 times on the back of that button here for that pen to fill. Well, what's left to do is a size comparison and a writing sample. Let me close the ink bottle before I really do spill ink. As said, that is Iroshizuku Tsukiyo. Works very well. It's like a blue, black, tealish ink. Works very nice, very well with that pen here. Size comparison to my standard reference pen, Lamy Safari. As said, it's no small pen. The Lamy Safari is also not a small pen, and the Custom 74 is even a tad longer. Uncap the pens. And it's about the same length. Slightly shorter. The Custom 74 is slightly shorter, but I guess it's again safe to say that if you're comfortable with the size of a Lamy Safari, you're going to be comfortable with the size of that Custom 74 here. So what's left for us to do is a writing sample. Pilot nibs are said to be one of the best nibs out there, one of the smoothest nibs out there. This is really a very lovely nib. Very, very smooth, very nice nib. What I have to say about this nib here is that when it came out of the box, it was super dry. It was so dry that it wouldn't really, let me zoom in a little bit, that it almost did not write. So because, and I'm coming back to that in a second, it's a very, very soft nib. I really had to press pretty hard for the pen to write in the first place. So I really had to like press a little bit down like that to open up the tines, which is fairly easy to do because, as said, it is a very soft nib, so that the ink really actually starts flowing, because you don't want a fountain pen to write on while pressing. You want to write that at the slightest touch, which the pen now does. I'm just resting it here in my hand and it writes at its own weight, which is exactly how a fountain pen is supposed to write. So we are having here the Pilot Custom 74 with a fine nib. This is actually really a fine nib. And yeah, wetness, it is now that I opened up the tines a little bit, a nice wet writer. What's special about that nib is that it requires a quite light touch. Those nibs are quite soft. They are pretty pressure sensitive. So if I show you that, this here is with no pressure. Now I exert just a little bit more pressure and you see the line gets considerably wider and wetter. And if I exert a bit more pressure, you will get to something like this here. So there are people that say they find it a bit difficult with that pen to write. It's actually not that difficult to write with that pen. The only thing is it needs a very light touch. Otherwise, this is a super smooth nib, very fine. I enjoy these Japanese fine nibs a lot because I really like a fine line. And actually, it's really a pleasure to write with. So I hope that review of that pen was useful to you. And I'll see you at the next review. Bye bye.